Ethereum. Very interesting on Ethereum as well. Here's why I'm so bullish on ETH and have been, and I'm going to maintain this bullishness here. Let's take a look at the RSI on the daily on Ethereum. Okay, so here's our local range. Notice what happens every single time. We drew these out like a month or two ago. Who could have foreseen? Downtrend, broken pump. Downtrend, broken pump. Downtrend, broken pump. Who could have foreseen? It works. Okay. So on Ethereum, let's take a look at the RSI on the daily. Overbought, just like Bitcoin. So does it make sense that we would get a local pullback here? Yes, it does. So we're expecting a local pullback. Patience before entering in with more size. Here was where the RSI was at on this pump. Way overbought. Didn't come quite as high on this one, which is fine. So local pullback we're expecting. But let's take a look at the weekly RSI compared to this move. So we move to the weekly time frame. Look at this. It's the same thing as Bitcoin, the same point I was making. On the weekly, on this move to the 4100, we were overbought on the RSI on the weekly. Same thing with Bitcoin on the move to 100,000. Okay. Notice where the RSI on the weekly is for Ethereum right now. Barely over 50. Just now getting into strength after this big pump. We're not even close to being overbought on Ethereum. Not even fucking close. So what does that tell us? Well, last move, we would have said, all right, we better fucking start selling here, taking some profits because we're at range highs. Well, we wouldn't have known that was range high at the time because it was the first move up there. But we're at 4,100. The weekly and the daily are both highly overbought. We got to take some off the table right here because we're probably going to get a swing back down lower. And look what happens. You swing all the way back down below the 50. So it's clear now. The daily and the weekly were overbought. Bitcoin last time, daily and weekly overbought. Makes sense that we had those big pullbacks over the last couple months. Ethereum right now, even though the daily is overbought, the weekly is not. The weekly is not even close to being overbought. So we have so much more room on this next move on Ethereum to capture upside before we even start to consider the idea of taking profits, taking some off the table, etc. Is it possible that we get a further pullback and we go into a bear market recession? It's possible. Am I betting on that? No. The odds are telling me no. Be bullish here on a higher time frame because weekly on Ethereum is not even close to being overbought. Make sense? Very simple logic I'm using here to make our bets. So that's where we're at on Ethereum. So I'm looking at that and saying, love it. Love it. I can still be very long on ETH with plenty of room for upside because the weekly RSI is not even close to being overbought. Once weekly and daily and monthly are overbought, then you can start to look at that and say, all right, probably should get the fuck out of here. Okay? Because look at the monthly RSI. Last cycle, the monthly RSI came all the way up here and then actually came down as this pump continued to take place. The monthly RSI on Ethereum has not been overbought this entire cycle. This is 17 cycle, hugely overbought. 2021 cycle, hugely overbought, called the top. This cycle, ETH has not even come close to being overbought on the monthly time frame. I don't see a cycle top here then. That means I think we go higher. I think ETH goes to $7,000-$8,000 because that would be overbought on the monthly. Okay? So ETH has plenty of room on the higher time frames for moves upward, which would be interesting. Let's actually take a look at Bitcoin on the monthly. I'm curious to see what that looks like. Yeah, see? So on this move, overbought on the monthly. On this move, overbought on the monthly. On this move, back in the last cycle top. So notice cycle tops are taking place when monthly RSI is largely overbought. So this is another point of confluence we can use to say that this cycle's not over. Bitcoin's going to 144,000. That's the next fib level if we get another breakout. 2017, cycle top, overbought on the monthly. 2021, cycle top for Bitcoin, guess what? Overbought on the monthly, right? Cycle top, cycle top. Have you seen anything remotely this close on Bitcoin this cycle? Nope, nope. And then on the monthly right now, we're still not even in this overbought zone like we were before. Well, doesn't look like a cycle top to me. Look at this. This is fucking alpha. This is juice. You guys are getting the fucking alpha today. So I'm not seeing overbought. Whoops. I'm not seeing overbought territory on the monthly. Okay? Beautiful. All right. So local pullback, higher time frame, bull to the tits. Cool. So let's take, so we looked at Ethereum. Yes, so monthly, not even close to being overbought on the monthly. I'm happy with that. Let's go back down to the lower time frame on Ethereum. So lower time frame on ETH, what are we looking at? So my bid zone, the first bid zone I'm looking at on ETH is down in this demand, this little consolidation region after this first big push up off of the lows. So we get this big pump off the lows straight up into here. This was the first little consolidation that we had before another try to push up higher, fake breakout. Then we've been drawing down ever since. I opened up, just for transparency, so you guys know, I put this in the Discord. So these guys are in on this play with me. I longed off the bottom on Ethereum. So I opened a long. It was in here as we were grinding across 17. So I was in at like 1750. So right about in here. So I was probably getting in closer to here. I opened up my long at 1750. Rode it all the way up. I opened a short right here. And I put it in the Discord and some of the guys followed me. Open a short right up in here because I'm expecting after this false breakout, I'm expecting a drag back down into here. Okay. So this is my next big zone, bid zone. Is ETH coming back down, sweeping this low and breaking down and sweeping these lows. So I would expect ETH to come back down into like 2200, 2300, maybe. We get a dip down into 22, like down into here would be the other zone. So I would actually draw like this. You got two like little demand regions right here on a lower time frame. So I'd expect one of these two to get hit. Okay. So why am I saying this? Because I'm giving you an idea of how to position, right? If you miss that move off of the low and you're saying, I want to get into my fart coins, I want to get into my Pepes, I want to get into my goats, I want to get into the launch coin, like these other fucking assets that have just been running, and then the established altcoins, you want to get into XRP, whatever. I'm looking for these pullbacks into these demand zones, okay? So ETH at the lowest, I'm seeing 2100 on ETH, that's a bid. And then if you see ETH drop down into like 2300, that's also, I'm going to start bidding there a little bit, okay? If I was you, if I'm trying to get into altcoins, okay? So that's what I'm looking for. Could we keep running from here? Possibly. Doubt it. Chances are we don't, especially because the RSI on the daily is overbought. We just did have some pumps. Things are going to cool off a little bit, get some consolidation, some light pullbacks. That's your opportunity to go ahead and get in. Go ahead and position, okay? So that's Ethereum on the lower time frame. I'm expecting moves down into these demand zones. Okay. I would not expect range lows on ETH, but you could get range lows. That's worst case scenario. Max pain would be a range low scenario where you come back down, retest the range low, and then 1750, and then start moving back up. Doubt it. Technically, though, from an analysis standpoint, it's okay. You could do that because you would not be getting back below this downtrend. So it would still be a higher low. And you wouldn't have broken down from the range. So you could retest range lows. I would hate that. It would suck. But technically, you would still be okay.